does the Church of England offer the next generation? Well, the question is quite sneaky, really, isn't it? Because it's two questions. And the first question is, what could the Church of England offer the next generation? And I would have no problem at all in answering that with a simple quote from Bill Hybels of Willow Creek fame. He says, "Nothing else in the world, nothing that the world can offer can compete with the power and the wonder and the potential and the brilliance and the life and the hope and the love of the church." And I actually believe that that is possible. I even believe that there are possibly some parts in the world where that is true today. Oh my, how I'd love that to be the answer to Linda's question, but alas, that was not her actual question. Her question addresses reality. What does the church have to offer? And specifically, it addresses the established church in this country. Now, I'm no mystic Meg, but any frank look will reveal that without some considerable changes, the future looks very bleak. In terms of the C of E's place in the nation, I think it will be death by 1,000 cuts. The number of bishops in the House of Lords will diminish, not necessarily a bad thing. And it is difficult to calculate the effect of the death of the Queen on people's vaguely benign goodwill towards the good old C of E. Very interestingly, the link between spirituality and religion has also been broken. And the next generation, who are far more openly spiritual than their predecessors, do not make institutional religion their first port of call. But all this is incidental to the most difficult thing to name. In the context of global agony at the effect of bad religion, the C of E has simply lost the trust of the nation as leaders in the spiritual and ethical values of our society. As a church which will not sign up to equalities legislation and scorns some aspects of human right, it has moved in the opposite direction from the changes that society sees as fundamental ethical reforms. OK, they were bemused by the struggles we had to allow women to become bishops. But I tell you, they are repelled by the way we claim to have God's authority to treat LGBTI people not only with discrimination but with downright cruelty. Now, I'm sure as this evening evolves we'll discuss all sorts of ideas about what we might or might not do in order to create a church for the future. But I think we need to start further back. I'm reading Otto Scharmer's recent book, Leading from an Emerging Future. And the introduction, believe it or not, is called Breathing Life into a Dying System. And his theory, and I'm sure he's right, is that we are at a time of disruption. And the leaders we need in this context are those who can lean into the future. It's not an overtly Christian book, but boy does he have a killer quote. He says, "The success of our actions as change makers does not depend on what we do or how we do it, but on the inner place from which we operate." Now, if that inner place is occupied by a command and control God who has some vast master plan and a series of rules and regulations, which, despite the fact that they have self-evidently cruel results, must nevertheless be blindly followed, then we are in big trouble. You see, the sort of God you believe in will be mirrored in the sort of institution you run. Believe in a big daddy God, and what you will have will be hierarchical and secretive and over-clericalized. Now say we believed in a God who invites us to participate in the dance of creation, whose script for justice was not punishment, but equity, and whose song was freedom. How very different the church would be. From the pulpit of a well-known Anglican church, the preacher proclaimed that before our repentance, God regards us as little more than excrement on the pavement. Heaven help us. If that is our message, I hope the church does die out. What we should be offering the next generation is a church whose life bears witness in an embodied way to the authenticity of our message. Then it might be true, and we can talk about the life and the hope and the love of the church once again. Thank you.